right, the inspiration of today I got from this talks between Trump and Xi Jinping from China in South Korea. I'm sorry. And this is your favorite half Chinese. So they were also talking about the whole fentanyl problem in the United States. And obviously China said again, we will help you with anything that you need to solve that problem. However, there's a little problem here. The problem is not in China, the problem is in the United States. And China already did a lot of things to solve that problem for the United States. But as you can imagine, one country cannot solve the problems, internal problems in another country. And then you have Trump going way away from the United States to Venezuela and start taking out people, acting like it is in their fight against drugs. It's just not helping. The United States needs to start to look inward instead of looking outward. Your problems in the United States have been inflicted by yourself. It's an internal problem. It's not an external problem. Now, let us just look at China. China had a huge opioid problem way before the United States had it. And that one was inflicted upon them by the Western powers. One of them, ironically enough, was the United States. In fact, the United States built like universities and railroads of the proceeds of the opium trade in China. They even sent in their armies to fight for that. So yeah, anyway. So China, after 1949, when the Communist Party was installed, they wanted to change the situation. Now what China didn't do, China did not start to blame the West, which was a huge part responsible for it, right? Because they literally brought it with their gunboats. But the government in China just didn't do that. They didn't feel any merit into blaming others. They just found ways to solve the problem internally. So they started to look at what is actually making these people using it and whatever. And they also started to put in or install policies, right? One of them is rehabilitation compulsory. It's not a choice. You have to rehabilitate, yeah. And for 2 years, not like in the West, we have all these things, it's just like 3 months and then you go back home. So what happens when you go back home? You get back in the same situation with the same people, with the same habits, and you're starting all over again. I've seen it with my own eyes with people that I personally was very, very close with. So that is not helping. It is just a temporary break from being a junkie. That's the God honest truth. China does it a whole different level. You have a compulsory of 2 years. That's a minimum. So a lot of people also do not want to use because they don't want to be treated like that for 2 years long. And that also will withhold you. But at least they went after all the people that were using and got them off the opium. And that helped really, really a lot. And they also were enforcing it, their borders, obviously. Obviously, after the revolution came, they just threw all those out. The imperialist drug dealers from the West. And, you know, this is how they solved it. They did a lot of other things, also installing the death penalty for it. So in China, if you are being caught with about, I believe it is 50 grams, you're almost literally are hanging. Nowadays, they don't hang you, but they do it through other measurements. Your life is over. Honestly, it's over. There are some cases when there is foreigners that they are, for some reason, very lenient to. One example was a Canadian, and he wanted to take 250,000 lbs of methamphetamines with him, and he was caught. And for some odd reason, they only gave him 15 years. And instead of kissing the feet of the judge and, maybe do some other things for the judge, uh, he went into appeal it because he was not satisfied with the sentence. And guess what he got then? Yep, death sentence. Because that's one thing that you don't do in China. You do not smack authority in the face, especially not when they have been really, really nice to you. Because 15 years or losing your life is a huge difference. Ah, man, if it was me, I would have asked the judge for his address, and I would make sure that every single day he and his family will get some flowers or something, whatever it is. Anyway, what does the United States do? Really, literally nothing. It is constantly blaming others. It's blaming Venezuela, but if you look at the routes, they're not coming in from Venezuela. They're coming in through Mexico. They're coming in through Canada. He's not taking out people from Mexico. He's not taking out people from Canada either, but from Venezuela. And this is something that Americans need to start to discern, right? Okay, you have this huge problem, and now your president is just boasting that he's taking the lives of other people from Venezuela because of the drug trade. But nobody is thinking, oh, then why don't you do that for the people coming from Mexico or from Canada? You don't. So now you need to start to think, what is he really doing in Venezuela? Well, he always wanted to overthrow the government. So probably it has something to do with destabilizing. Trump is always trying to get Venezuela, the government, down. Why? Because his capitalist buddies then can get their greedy claws on that oil of Venezuela. That's all that's to it. Anyway. The United States does not force people to rehabilitate. And now I understand that a lot of people in the United States value the word freedom, but it's going to take my freedom away. Let me tell you something. When you are a junkie, you're not experiencing any freedom because all that is comes from a little bag. And one day when you're not having any money, you will be on your knees with your mouth open, doing things that you ordinarily would not do for just a little bag. And when you come back and you start smoking it or shooting it or whatever it is that you do with it, you will find out that that stuff that they gave you was mixed so much truth that it has no more effect on you, and you can go back and sit on your knees and do the same thing over and over again until you get a fix that gets you enough high so you can just doze off and wake up shaking and shivering and going for your next fix on your knees. If you call that freedom, then you and I live in a different world. So, when you look at it from that concept or perspective, then I think compulsory rehabilitation forced upon you by the state is actually giving you freedom, because it makes you get rid of being dependent on all these things. And I think that the United States should be starting to think about these kind of measurements and also maybe install the death penalty. Because I can guarantee you, if you are talking with the people that will smuggle the stuff over, I can guarantee you There's nobody in the cartel that will ever get it in his mind to do a shipment over to mainland China. They will not do it. And the reason is very simple. They don't like to lose their head. So why isn't the United States doing it? In fact, China already executed people who were found in a lab making things or packaging things to ship it over to the United States. These people have been executed. None Americans that have been caught doing this have been executed. Some even only get 5 years. But yet you are blaming the entire world except your own. And I think that Americans should start to become awake that this problem roots very deep and is very intertwined with what your government has been doing over these years. Because there's a reason why everybody is addicted. There's a reasons, many reasons are there. For one, is a lot of poverty in the United States. Alleviate the poverty. Please do understand. This is not a critic on the American people. But the American people need to start to wake up and think, how is it possible that a developing nation can actually raise its people 800 to 850 million out of poverty while coming from number 11 poorest country in the world, while your own nation has the most money in the world and the poverty is rising. And by raising poverty, also the abuse of substances that you should not be taking will also be raising. Somehow these things go hand in hand. It's a psychological thing. I have not gotten to that psychological part yet, so I cannot talk much about it. Then you also have the pharmaceutical industry. And yeah, this is going to be very dangerous for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. They are pumping you up with all these opioids, which most likely for the problems that you have don't need. I'm not a doctor, obviously. I also don't know what you have, so take it with a grain of salt. Now, when a lot of sporters, what I know of, you know, the professional sportmen, when they have injuries, a lot of them got addicted later. And the reason was because they had all these heavy painkillers with opioids in it, and they got addicted to it. That's also a huge part in the United States. That is why they are using so many of these different kind of pills, right? Just think of it. Why isn't your government stepping in? If you are having a little bit of pain here, they will prescribe you paracetamol. Honestly, they will not prescribe because you can buy it in the shop, but that is what they will tell you to take, or ibuprofen. It's very hard here to get opioids. You really need to have a really real difficult disease like cancer or something like that. Then they will give it to you. But normal, no, they don't. So this is one of the other problems that you need to fix. But instead of that, the United States is actually promoting it by giving places that you can use safely. This is the most ridiculous thing. That's promoting. Come and get your needles here. That's insane, isn't it? When you think of it, the amount of problems that you have, and you are giving them free needles? What's next? And then you're also legalizing marijuana. How stupid can you be? You are blaming China for your opioid crisis, and then you legalize another drugs, which is most of the time a step up, because these things happen. And I've seen it in the Netherlands. Seen it. The kids are smoking from a very young age. Then the first time they go out, they put some white powder in their nose or they're popping a pill. That's how it goes. Because the threshold for, to step up is so low, because you already started to smoke all these kind of things. It's not a normal thing. And now I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but it is what it is. It's still a drug. And yes, it is green. It comes from a plant. Well, so does cocaine. But the process how to make it is not so it's quite chemical, and the process to make the marijuana to smoke is also very, very chemical these days, especially in the Netherlands. So yeah, it is not, and it's not a herb. Stop fooling yourself and trying to get high at the same time and clean at the same time. It doesn't work like that. It's problematic for your society. Can you just not smoke it? Is that an option? But this is the whole thing with the United States. They want to do everything they want, even if it is counterproductive to their problem, and then the problem doesn't solve from itself, obviously, and then they will blame others. First of all, China has banned all these precursors to be sold to the United States. So honestly, for Trump asking China to help is really a little bit, keeping that whole story alive. Oh yes, it's China's fault. It's not our fault. It is the fault of the government of the United States. Also, what they also used to do in during the Vietnam War, they were shipping the heroin over, right? They're giving it to their GIs. Because yeah, how else to go? I heard also stories about that they were getting MDMA or other drugs to use. And that already created the heroin problem, right? And then in the 80s, they start sending crack into the other poor communities, right? This is government, CIA. CIA. So while you are taking out a boat, right, which supposedly or allegedly being carrying a little bit of drugs, you are keeping the CIA alive doing all this, the big transports, right? They even made a movie about it, right? From I believe the guy name was Barry Seal. Didn't he work for the CIA, or am I mistaken? Anyway, I just wanted to let the Americans know that maybe you really should start to look inward instead of looking at China, because China only can do as much, right? They already banned all the precursors. That's already since, I believe, 2019. They banned a whole lot, and later some, and I think now everything is banned. So it is useless to have these kind of things. And I think that when you look at your government, when they're talking like that, you just know they are not sincere. And it's very, very painful for the American people, but it is you guys who need to stand up against it and demand that changes will be made within the country, right? I mean, honestly, it doesn't make any sense. Where is the fentanyl coming from that is coming into your country? I can tell you where it's coming from. Coming from Mexico and Canada. Canada is also very, very big in it. Actually, Canada also produces itself. In fact, there was a shipment one time that was shipped to China, but to Hong Kong in China, and that shipment came from Canada. So, yeah. Time to look a little bit more inward instead of looking outward. I hope this message will come through to the American people. I hope you will be a little bit more enlightened. Blaming China, you can blame China as much as you want. It's not going to change. And this is something that you really, really, really need to start to understand. Anyway, let me know what you all think of this in the comment section. But please keep it respectful, not uncivilized barbarians, unlike some others. Please like, share, and if you have not yet, then follow. And as always, have a great day. Your favorite half Chinese.